play, and trying to give them some strategies that can help support play experiences for both you and your young children, the children that you're spending time with. So we kind of begin with thinking about what is keeping kids from playing quite as much as they used to. Does anybody have any idea of what that might be? What is keeping kids from playing, as much and experiencing and exploring as much as they used to even 5 years ago?
Danger, electronics.
Danger, electronics.
When I say danger, I mean it seems to be a lot less publicized safety, I guess.
Sure. Yep.
What else? I would definitely say electronics have a lot to do with it as time evolves.
Yeah, and that's what I would totally agree with. The technology used today is greater than it's ever been. Now, I will say I was reading a little bit yesterday, because I'm always trying to figure out what the rules for technology are going to be once we come out of a pandemic, because we know our kids are spending more time now than ever. But between 2011 and 2019, technology use in the average household went up to like 90% of homes now have technology base that our children can get pretty much easy access to, whether it's a tablet, a smartphone, laptop, computers. So we have a lot more access, and there is a lot more that our kids are doing online or with their technology than they've ever been using. So it's definitely changed the way our kids play, the amount of playtime they have, whether it's cognitively or physically, into the whatnot. I won't describe all of them just yet, because we're going to talk quite a bit about it. But yeah, and then you kind of mentioned dangers, and dangers can be anything from what's going on in our community, what the weather's like, are we in a safe place to play, are there like tree limbs that fell down in our backyard and stuff like that. So thinking about what's going on in the environment. So we can say danger is a word that we can use, but yeah, anything that's changing the environment, where we have to be cautious of play. But technology tends to be the big one, and the one that we're asked about the most. And I'm not really going to go into technology with this presentation. We're going to talk about play, but I will say one thing for those of us who have kids that are using technology for school right now. They say that under 2, our kiddos shouldn't really have a lot of access to screen time and technology, because they don't really benefit from it, other than using FaceTime, having the video conversations like Zoom with other people, because it does still help them engage and have some social and emotional experiences. But even our kiddos above 2 up to 5, the averages, they had about an hour and a half to 2 hours a day of total screen time. Now, when I say that, we want to separate that from time they're having doing schoolwork. Now, schoolwork has become, maybe all virtual for some students, somewhat virtual. We take that time out of the equation, and then we look at how much time they're having watching videos, playing games, using apps and things like that outside of school. We want to pay more attention to how much that time is happening versus what's happening with school and education. So you can almost separate the two. But I will go into an hour-long dialogue on that if I'm allowed to, so we can save that for another time. But as Marty pulled up the PowerPoint, and thank you, greatly appreciated, we think about play and what we need for play. We want to think about the materials that we're going to use for play, what's available, what's in the environment. And materials can be anything from like blocks and dolls and cars and puzzles to craft supplies, sand, sensory bins, things like that. That's what we think about for materials. Where we're at in our environment. So what's going on around us in the environment? Is it an environment that we can explore in? Is it an environment that kind of keeps us more in one spot? So thinking about the environment, what's the exploration levels like for the kids? And when they have a chance, so are they able to engage with peers? Because we know that peer-to-peer engagement is huge in play, especially for social and emotional development, building empathy, understanding our feelings, understanding the feelings of others, reading that body language, facial expressions, all that good stuff, kind of goes into that peer-to-peer play. And I understand, our kids aren't getting nearly as much of that as they were able to. but they can still get some. We can still do some FaceTime and still have some recognition of peer-to-peer support. But knowing that it's a little bit different right now until we move into a safe nature where we can get back person to person. And then it all delves right into the play experience. So, what physical development. So we're going to talk about, the physical development of gross motor skills, fine motor skills, cognitive development, the way our thought patterns work, the way we use our brains, the way we understand others, empathy, and then our feelings and emotions play into that social and emotional development, developing our interactions with others and learning to show empathy, but also learning when it's appropriate to engage another, whether it's in play, depending on how we're feeling, if we're happy, sad, upset, excited, any other feelings that grow into social and emotional. So play helps us learn and evolve those feelings. All right, I'll just do next slide, Marnie. So one thing we like to kind of talk about and mention is the high scope preschool study. And it was a study that took place, basically after 2 years, kids in a play-based program, and they studied them when they were in the program and beyond. But they found that children tended to score better on self-regulation, cognitive flexibility, and just their working memory when they were in a play-based program or preschools that offered a lot of play options. And they found that as the children got older, turned into teens, they were showing higher levels of social and academic competence. So they typically made friends easier, got along with their peers, but they also had higher grades. They did better on like M-steps, and what they were called at that time, on their general academics. And when they went to take like SATs and ACTs, they tended to score higher. And they found out that when they got to be 40, they had even higher earnings, they had a higher employment rates and fewer incarcerations and higher vocational attainment. So the study shows that play is an important part of our development, it's an important part of our learning process. Not only play in a school setting like a preschool, or not only play like in a childcare setting, but also play at home with their primary caregivers, their parents, grandparents, babysitters, neighbors, anybody that they spent a great deal of time with. Play was important. So yeah, as we mentioned, I asked, why aren't children playing? So Marnie, go to the next slide. That's just kind of a lead in for me. So screen time is a big one. And as I mentioned, we've seen drastic increases in the amount of screen time. Already mentioning that most homes have capability of some kind of screen access. Now, when I mention screens, you want to think about any screen that a child will look at and watch. The best screen in the world is still the screen door that lets you look outside and see the environment in the community. But when we talk about screens, we mean television screens, computer, tablets, phones, anything that has a screen and can show some kind of image, of whether that's a video or things through an app or whatnot. So the big drastic increases is partly because of the access that we all have to screens. Our kids are gaining more access and they are spending more time with it. And one big thing that we're doing as adults is, and I would say, everybody raise your hands if I could see you, but I would say, how many of us have just pulled out a phone, pulled out a tablet and just got on it to fiddle, just to kill time or anything like that. And, and I've done it and I'm always calling myself and my wife on it. We all do it. But as soon as we do it, what do our kids want to do? They want to do the same thing. If they have availability, they want to pick it up and they want to start doing it. And the older they get, the more apt they are to follow along with us. And I don't know any of us that have older kids or have been around them have said, but mom's doing it, but dad's doing it. So they're following what we're modeling for them. So especially at a young age, we want to make sure that we're role modeling like appropriate time usage with our phones, especially because that's typically the easiest access to things. And there is nothing wrong with kind of zoning out a little bit, watching a couple videos, texting, doing some message boards, things like that. It's a part of our culture. It's things that we do now. But I think we sometimes forget that, all of a sudden we plug into Facebook and 45 minutes later, we've eaten half a bag of chips and we're still doing the same thing. It's no different than back. I remember growing up, being a teenager in the 80s, sitting down watching a show and eating a whole can of Pringles and be like, wow, what just happened? So it's important that we're modeling some good time constraints and setting some time constraints, with our families, with our kids, having some, screen time, computer free zones, having some time during the day where we just all set it down and just have conversations, whether it's, at dinner time or lunchtime or whatnot. And then making sure that we're not on our phones like at bath time. We're not have our phones there when we're trying to read with our kids. I love to use one great example of a parent who really kind of got caught up in the phones is about 8 years ago. I was a manager for Early On, and I had a staff member who was doing a home visit, and she felt like the mom wasn't listening to her because she kept getting on her phone and texting people. So the home visitor, case manager, actually got her phone out and texted the mom what she was talking about. And the mom just looked at the phone and just kind of slid it away. Nobody said anything, but she kind of got, oh, wait a minute, there is a time to not kind of be on my technology. So let's think about how we can shorten our times as adults, especially when our kids are watching and really want to see what's going on. So that was my big diatribe about technology. So, think about it that, older children and teens, they're engaging in an average of 2.5 hours of music, 5 hours of movies, almost 3 hours of TV, an hour and a half of texting, and half an hour of talking on the phone. I don't know. I really don't see kids talking on the phone anymore unless they're video chatting. And usually they're in the other room. So you can hear them, but they don't like you seeing them do it. It's the strangest phenomenon. So these numbers are basically around 2018 to 2019. So they've changed a lot, obviously. But what we're seeing is that our older kids, our teens especially, are spending quite a bit of time with some kind of technology. But also pay attention to that, approximately 50% of children under 2 are watching 2 or more hours of TV a day. Now, that really isn't really helping them because they're not learning from it as much as they will learn from a face-to-face interaction, from playing with things like blocks and reading and all that good stuff. But a study showed that for every 1 hour increase in television time for 2.5-year-olds, there was a corresponding decrease in vocabulary, number knowledge, classroom engagement, and gross motor skills. Whereas our kids can play on apps, watch videos and stuff like that, but they tend to not pick up vocabulary, use their language as quickly as having a conversation with mom or dad, as sitting and holding and reading a story together with somebody else. Those physical interactions, those face-to-face interactions, that communication is still the best way to build vocabulary. Now, as they grow and they get up into that 3 to 4 year range, they will start to build vocabulary off of watching videos and seeing apps and stuff like that. But before then, the brain just contextually isn't ready to take in those words and learn how to use them. So kind of important that we're still having that communication with our kiddos that are a little bit younger. So talking about tech, move on to a little bit about outdoor play. And hopefully we're still getting some outdoor play in January. I know it's been really cold the past few days, and I don't want to go outside and build a snowman in this because the snow isn't any good for it to begin with. But outdoor play is important because it's a different kind of engagement than being indoors. It really lends itself to physical play, to exploration, seeing what's in our environment. Let's all think back to when we were young kids and being able to go out, run around in the snow. When you were children, I know not everybody loved this, but most of us, who didn't love going out, running around in the rain, playing in the rain, coming in, taking a warm shower when you're done. I mean, there's a lot of sensory experiences that are happening in instance of that kind of play. So outdoor play really lends itself to our senses growing in terms of our taste, our smell, our sight, touch, hearing. Everything plays into our play and our experiences when we're outdoors. So we go outside and we experience, playing with leaves that have fallen on the ground, and playing in the snow and running around in the sun and rolling in the grass and all those different things that we can't necessarily do inside. And another thing about outdoor play is it often tends to be more unstructured. Think about going outside with sidewalk chalk and just letting the kids color on the sidewalk however they want. And they'll go all over the place, no cover on this and that. And it all washes away. It's a great place, a great thing to do. but we also can let them explore outside as long as it's in a safe spot. It's in a good location. You know, we know where they are. We know what's going on. We can help them when they need it. We can intervene when we have to, but it's a place where we can allow them to explore and experience a little bit more. And two things I will say on it. One is just about anything you do inside, depending on the weather, of course, you can do outside. If you're going to read a book inside, you can go outside and read a book. If you're going to cut and paste and make pictures inside, you can take all the materials and do it outside. It just feels different. It's a cool experience for them, and vice versa. In most things you can do outside, some of that stuff you can bring inside. If it's really cold, if you got like a plastic, like small, like Rubbermaid type tote, go outside, get some snow, bring it in. If you're worried about the mesh, lay it by the bathtub and just play in it. So things that you can bring outside, inside too
Yes.
are
Kevin,
great.
I want to say that when my son was small, indoor sandbox in the winter. Just get a Rubbermaid short, like under the bed tote, fill it up with sand, hours. And then you just throw the top on when you're done. I mean, yep, actually, yeah, take them both ways.
And when you're done with the sand, you've got yourself, you can make yourself a beautiful sensory bin. Go to the dollar store. They sell the plastic boxes. We used to carry around a little one that was like an 8x12 box, and we would put rice in it. And when the rice got a little bit older, we'd toss it out. We put macaroni in it, toss it, put sand, put water. So indoors, you can have a sensory bed of multiple things. But thank you for sharing, Marty. That is so important that we can do that with and for our kids. And I'm telling you, as an adult, I enjoy doing it too. And I love doing it with them, especially our younger kids. It's so much fun. So just some ideas to support outdoor play. As I mentioned, bring arts and crafts outside. I'll let you know I'm very big about talking about the next slide before I typically even get to it. But bring arts crafts outside. We used to love to play with our dolls and our cars and all that stuff. I take it outside and play with it. You can bring it back in with you. Do things like, feel free to make like mud kitchen, have an outdoor sensory table. It's the same thing. Don't go out, you don't ever have to go out and buy any expensive materials. Like I said, dollar store, plastic tub, and just, put some dirt, put some sand. The first thing they're going to want to do is dump a cup of water in it, get messy. Hey, we can go back inside. We can clean off. I always say, just buy whatever door you enter. If you can have some kind of a cheap towel or something to wipe off before you go in, it's very helpful. Go on walks, walk in the rain. Let them jump in the puddles. Some kids love to do it. Some don't love to do it. I would say never make a kid do something like that. But the experience is huge and it often helps build their sensories. And if you're brave enough to do it yourself as an adult, by all means do it. It's still fun as long as you can get those shoes off and get your feet dry. Play together in the snow, play together in the leaves, spend time with them, talk about what you're doing. I like to say it's very big when we can kind of be a dialogue, or like kind of like we turn a radio on for us in the background, or have the TV on the background. We're just listening to it, we're not paying a lot of attention to it. Be that for your kids. Talk about what you're doing out loud. It can be as simple as when you're doing the dishes. I love this. When my son was little, I would stand there and go, Dad's doing the dishes. I'm cleaning them off. Oh, putting them in the dishwasher. And I was just dialoguing the experience I was having and what I was doing. I wasn't necessarily talking to him and I wasn't expecting him to respond, but he heard all that language in his background. So being background noise for them is a huge thing to help them develop their vocabulary and use their language. Do things like a scavenger hunt. You can make a short list you can even read just 4 or 5 things to go outside and find. And if we're not to a point where we're reading words yet, you can print a picture off, or, we've cut pictures out of magazines and put them on like paper, tape them on and whatnot, and then they go outside and try to find those things. Have a picnic outside. It's kind of a lost art to take our kids and have picnics anymore. So, take lunch outside sometimes and have lunch. And then, it's still fun to go outside and read a book under a shady tree. It's still an amazing feeling. And I still like to do that as an adult. It's usually more like a comic book, but sometimes, but we love to be outside. So transitioning from outdoor play into pretend play, Know that pretend play is huge in terms of increasing language skills. The reason is in pretend play, we're talking about a lot more things that we don't talk about in our normal language. We're using more feelings, words, more emotions. Be aware of the thoughts and the feelings of others. So we can talk to our kids about what's it feel like to be a princess? What does it feel like to dress as, a superhero? So, and tell them how you're feeling. Remember to show your face, different feelings and label that feeling so that they not only hear the word, but they see it on your face. And if you're not sure what you look like when certain feelings are happening, like, do you really know what you look like when you're mad versus when you're angry versus when you're upset or frustrated? When you're having those feelings, if you can, go look at yourself in the mirror, just so you see what the kids are saying, and it'll give you a sense of which word to use and help them understand, because they're seeing that face that you're giving. That's telling them what feeling that you're having. We get to talk about both positive and negative feelings. If something didn't feel good, something felt great. Talk about the feelings that you're having, and know that all feelings are appropriate and okay, but we need to learn how to express them appropriately. So we need to know how to express our frustrations, without pushing or hitting or throwing by using our words or using gentle touch and things like that. So we're role modeling and teaching that for our kids. So sometimes it's okay to pretend what a situation would look like. I'm mad. This is what mommy would do. Or I'm frustrated. This is what daddy would do. And then literally show them. So that's part of pretend play also. We're going to increase their capacity for self-regulation because they're going to learn about feelings. They're going to learn about their frustrations. And they're going to learn how to stop themselves, calm themselves, and put them in a spot where they're okay to move on. And then it really enhances cognitive flexibility. Just getting the chance to feel like you're somebody else, or portray a different type of person when you're playing dress up, pretending with action figures or dolls or anything like that, and giving them names. Our pretend play really kicks in, and we think differently and we feel differently. And I will share just the shortest story. When I started in the field, I did play groups, and I had a little guy who was about 2.5, maybe a little bit closer to 3. And he used to come to play group every week dressed as a different superhero, which is very cool because this was way before the superhero craze hit. And he come in, as Captain America and, others. And one day he came in and he just had like a dress shirt and khakis on. And I was so confused by it. And I just asked him, well, hey, who are we today? Who are we? And he says, well, I'm Bruce Banner. I said, okay. He says, I couldn't be the Hulk because if I get mad, my clothes will rip and mommy will be upset with me. So pretend play really kicks in those thoughts and those ideas and those cognitions. So think of that story when you're thinking about pretend play. That really lets you know. So to support pretend play, just have a wide variety of imaginative play materials. It can be like different things that they can use for dress clothes. Dress clothes doesn't have to be costumes and things like that. It can be some of your old clothes, mom, dad's, grandparents' old clothes, some of their old clothes, hand-me-downs, things like that. Just anything that they can put on and just pretend to be someone else. And then, play materials, imaginative play materials are things like blocks, and we call it loose parts, but putting out like things that they can glue on construction paper, like pom-poms and buttons and all that kind of good stuff. Lets them create it in their own way without having to follow any constricted rules. Allow for mixed use of items, so they can combine pretend play and building materials. So we've all probably seen our kids or other kids build things out of blocks, and I build a castle and it's like 3 blocks in a row. It's a total castle to them. So they're being imaginative and they're pretending. So no matter what they have to play with, just allow them to play with it as long as it's safe, not hurting anybody. Play with them however they want. Sometimes we expect kids to use everything based on instructions. We are really stopping them from being creative and being imaginative. They have enough time in their lives to follow instructions and put things like IKEA furniture together. So let's let them be kids and enjoy it. And then, just expand on their interests. That's what it says in the classroom. We do that in the classroom, but at home also. If we have a kiddo that's really interested in trains, let's go to the library when we can and find books about trains. Let's find, apps about trains, videos about trains. Let's find whatever they're interested in, find more ways for them to learn about it. Because even if it's something they're very interested in and we don't find interesting at all as adults, It doesn't matter if they're interested in it. It helps that learning process. It helps that cognitive connections and the neurons fire in the brain, and it creates that ability for them to learn about all kinds of other things. So it's important that we do go with what they like. So leaping off of that, we talk about sensory play, and sensory play is huge because obviously we play into all the senses. But it does support a variety of key early childhood skills, including their math skills, their fine motor skills, language skills, social and emotional health. So think about just playing with sand, and it has a smell to it. It has a feel to it. Most kids at some point will find out that it has a taste to it, and they will spit it out and they will not enjoy it. If they ever do it, it's okay. It's a part of experimentation, but we don't want them to keep doing it over and over. So they're going to experience. But math skills, we're going to learn about like using a calendar, watching it out. We talk about that. They learn about less and more. They learn about, combining things, lining things up is about, prioritizing and organizing. So whenever we're doing any sensory play, it gives us another reach of vocabulary. Obviously fine motor, because most things we do in sensory are manipulated by our fingers. When we say fine motor, it's those small muscle movements versus gross motor, which is like our large muscle movements. Writing is fine motor versus riding a bike, which is gross motor, if you haven't heard those terms. But definitely with our language skills, because we have different kinds of communication. We use many different words than we use them in our daily usage. So it helps them hear and learn, and then they will start to use them also. And then totally social and emotional health. One is we get to talk about the feelings that we're having, how things feel texturally, like how they literally feel, but also how it feels to touch sand. How do you feel when you play with rice and whatnot? So we're getting to use that kind of language, but we also get many chances to work together. When kids are in preschool, they typically have sensory tables, and they'll have 3 or 4 of them gathered around. So they have to learn how to share the different items back and forth, share the calendar, share the scoopers and whatnot. So they're interacting with each other, and they're learning that practice before they have to master it in kindergarten. So sensory play is helping with all of our forms of development. And just some ideas to support sensory play, and these go into like making sensory bins and whatnot. But this is just a great list of ideas. And Marnie, if you would like since I sent you this copy of the PowerPoint, you can send it out to everybody so they can have it. But using like rice and water and leaves and snow, 4 things that have very different feels, very different kind of textures to them right there. But like sand is different when it's wet, when it's dry. So that's like a scientific experiment right there. It's a math experiment. Things like Play-Doh, whether it's the Play-Doh that we get in the store, out of the can, or for baking our own Play-Doh. If you haven't made Play-Doh on your own yet, jump online, Google it. There's a million ways to make it. It's incredibly fun. If you use one with the oil, you can bake it when you're done, and you can actually try it. It'll be very salty, but it's another experiment. So, things like cotton balls, they have a texture. There's so many games you can play with them. And I'll just mention a few more, like beans, whole kernel corn, ice cubes. My son to this day still likes to eat ice cubes and still likes to manipulate them with his hands when he gets a chance. It's a calming thing for him. But like playing with scoops and cars, and when we get things like seashells, PVC plumbing joints are a lot of fun. Going to Home Depot and just buying the PVC to kind of stick it together. If anybody has one of the home stores around them for Habitat for Humanity, they sell that stuff and it's really cheap. You can literally build giant structures out of it. You just have to sand it so we don't get scratches. And then there are things like buttons and ping pong balls and using tongs to pick things up like the cotton and whatnot. You're working on those skills. So just some ideas of things to use for sensory play. So I mentioned pretty much mostly all of these, but what are we learning through play? Our gross motor skills are developing, our fine motor skills, our cognitive play, so those thought processes, putting 2 and 2 together, making the neurons in our brain strong, and then developing our social skills, figuring out our emotions, the emotions of others, and working along together. So gross motor, just some ideas here. You know, it's really want to play activities to build gross motor skills. So things like skipping and jumping, hopping, climbing, tossing balls, whether it's a, you know, a little rubber ball to like a big like soccer ball size thing, but dancing, swinging. Kids love to play with scarves. So you have a scarf that they can dance and swing around. You're actually helping the fine motor too, because the hands are playing thing. But it's really about when we play and we do gross motor play, we're coordinating our large muscles, but also we're coordinating our core. So think of the middle of your body, and we strengthen from the inside out. So gross motor play actually helps your hands develop and actually helps strengthen your grip and your fingers. So leading that us into our fingers, speaking of that, but some fine motor skills. Activities such as, you know, playing with Play-Doh, finger painting, stringing of beads. If we don't have beads, you can string Cheerios and then you can eat them at the end, as long as that's okay. Watch out, because if you give them Fruit Loops, they may just eat handfuls of Fruit Loops and not want to string them. But like any kind of writing and painting, you know, cutting, sorting, all that play in the fine motor. And it's the same thing. We're going from that gross motor, getting our hands strong, but we're building on the muscles in the hands and in the fingers to make us strong, to get to that point where all of our kids can hold a pen or a pencil like we do as an adult. Call it the tripod grip. In social skills, we want to think about, you know, open-ended kind of pretend play. So it's like playing dress up. You just give them the stuff to play with, and then they imagine to do it however they want to it. So those open-ended experiences, you know, playing housekeeping. How many of our kids love to do chores with us, especially our young ones? And I think that usually lasts until they're about 8, when they get wise to us and figure out that we're just having them do our work. But housekeeping is a big thing they love to do. Help load the dishwasher, you know, load the dryer, sweep, and all that stuff. It's a great part of pretend play. But some collaborative outdoor play, so working together and playing those outdoor games when we can. And then, you know, just imagine to play with peers. So we know if we get a bunch of kids on the playground, eventually they come up with their own games. They pretend to play different characters, and they really figure out a lot of fun stuff without us even telling them what to do. So it all about becomes, we learn how to experience other people's points of view. We start to learn how to share our ideas, but listen to others' ideas and come together and just have the most fun. Social leads right into emotional. So think about games like pretend games are a big one. And we do it with our young kids. Our singing of our nursery rhymes and our songs are so important to emotional development. But it also attaches our motor skills, growing with our bodies and learning. So singing songs like Wheels on the Bus with lots of motion, Itsy Bitsy Spider, Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes, they all have a lot of physical movement to them. But they also have a lot of listening, learning new words, following directions. So all of that plays into it. So we model emotional control for them. So they need to see us kind of keeping our emotions at a good level, explaining whatever emotions we have, and showing them how to deal with their emotions in an appropriate way. And then leading, open-ended play with peers. So just letting them play. Maybe you give them some materials to use, but they're going to figure out how to do it together. And then, incorporating books and toys that have emotions. So there's a lot of books out there, even like Llama Llama, Red Pajama, The Pow-Pow Fish. All of those classic books have some kind of emotional entanglement, per se, to them. We were very big with Where the Wild Things Are. My favorite book as a child, my son's favorite book as a child, probably my fault because I read it to him every night. And then we got to talk about the emotions, how Max was feeling, how he was treating others. And there are just so many great books out there that help us express and learn about our emotions. So it all comes down to being able to express our feelings in a variety of ways. And then play and science education. So obviously our kids are going to be about exploration. They love to explore. Those of you that have kids in the 2-year-old range, everything's about exploring. What can I get a hold of? What's in there? How do I move this? What can I do? What happens if I do this? All that good stuff that we think of from 2 to 3 is all about exploration as we're trying to develop our language along the way. So it's important that we explore the world. Pictures of the kids, checking out the butterfly, but smelling the flowers, knowing what grass feels like and what rice feels like and how tastes are different. we're gaining new knowledge when we're exploring and having experiences. Even as adult, we can probably all think of something that we've learned new in the past week just because we tried something different or we explored something in a different way. Learning about the process of exploration, so they need to learn how to explore. So we are going to be helping them through that. We're going to be modeling it for them. So anytime that we're playing a game and teaching them new rules, that's all about exploring. The first time we start to teach them how to bake cookies with us or have them help us with meal planning, they're exploring the whole time. So we're almost always developing kind of like a menu of exploration with them. And then, it helps them just develop all those important skills. Our cognitions are really kicking in, but we're getting our feelings and emotions along with it, our physical skills. So when we are exploring and we're playing and one great thing that my son loved to do was experiment. So we would take everything that was safe and mix it together and just see what would happen. So we would mix different juices together to find out what it tastes like, put different soaps together to see what colors it made, what it smelled like. So it was always a lot of food mixing, especially once we found out what we were not allergic to, and then kind of went from there. So it's all about, it's our kids are naturally curious. So let's encourage their curiosity. So a little bit on hands-on literacy. So we move into we think about literacy and we're going to incorporate meaningful kind of writing into play. Now, literacy is moving beyond just the fact of, learning what a book is for as a tool to use. There are words there, so I'm going to learn how to read. But literacy is think about it as how we use words and the written language, in our daily lives. So we can start to do that with our kids, even when they're young. Once again, if I raise my hand, I'll be, how many have ever been frustrated taking a child through a grocery store and trying to get our grocery shopping done? I'm frustrated with a 15-year-old doing it. So, so one thing that we tried and started doing was when he was old enough to kind of hold on to something and think about flipping through a couple pages, is we got a big key ring and we started cutting out pictures off of boxes, like the front of a Cheerios box, like the front of a mac and cheese box, and we get like toaster strudel or something out of the frozen. And we gave him like 3 or 4 things on that ring to look for. And we just did it throughout the store where there was something in the first couple aisles, something in the middle, and something at the end. So every aisle we went down, we had to remind him, oh, do you see what's on your keychain there? And he would hold it up and he would look. We just kept his mind busy. And that was when he was about 3-ish. So, so doing things like that, that's like a grocery list for a child. Let them help you find the items. Have them write letters to friends when they're old enough. And when they're younger, but they kind of understand that they want to say something nice to a friend, we can help them draw color pictures and send and give to a friend. So that's a good way to start engaging in a social skill, even though we're not face to face. And then we even do things like sometimes we did party invitations in the play group where everyone would color invitations for everybody in the play group, and then the kids would hand them around. Almost think about when we were little kids and we traded Valentines in elementary school. You went around and dropped them in everybody's bucket. We started doing that in the play groups with kids that are even 2 years old. Now the pictures were like straight lines and little curves and things like that, but they just had so much fun because they knew they were getting to give one to each of the other kids in our group. So that's all about, we want to talk about like hands-on literacy. We just want literacy rich environment as much as possible. You can do things like you can label, objects with words. So you can put, the word door on a door, word window on a window, whatever's in a bucket, put a name of it. If they're younger, you can put a picture up and it does the same thing. So if you have a bucket of cars, you put a picture of a car on there. If you have a bucket of dolls, put a picture of a doll on there. If you had an area where you had play clothes, we would hang up like a picture of clothes. So that's all about labeling and then just signing different areas and different things around the house. And one neat thing that you can do if you do it in your own home is as you're developing and learning vocabulary, kids really remember things when they're able to touch them. So when I worked with a lot of parents who were teaching kids language or maybe had a little bit of a language delay, when we were doing like mama, dada, I'd always have them hold the child's hand and touch them when they say the name. So they'd be like, mama, mama, dada, dada. So it's like a neuron fires in the brain that connects language and that physicality, and they tend to learn a word like that faster. So you can go around to different objects and pictures on them. You can touch the picture and touch the object as you say the name of it, have them touch it, and they'll start to pick up on those words typically a little bit faster. So if you're working on language and vocabulary development, that is one of the best ways. Include a little physicality to it. And that was a short video, but we won't see it. So that's pretty much, you know, the presentation in a nutshell. I probably talked a little faster. And, we're doing good. So the video just was a picture of a classroom. If you want to see it, it's about 2 minutes. You can go on YouTube and put in the power of play, and it should come up. Marnie, that won't come out because it's an exported file. But I can also send you the name of it if anybody wants to see it. I can get you the name of it, Marnie. So the idea of play is, you know, play with your kids, you know, try different things, be willing to explore. I think a lot of kids lose playtime because the adults in their lives kind of forget to play ourselves. And it's important that we're having fun, we're playing with them, you know, enjoy the things that they love. Show them the things that you enjoyed as a child. You know, my wife, when my son was really little, Target had a bunch of G.I. Joe toys on sale, like on clearance, and they were dirt cheap. And I bought them and I kept them in a bucket. And she says, well, why are you keeping those? You know, he might not even like them. I says, you know what? They will like anything that we're willing to get down on the floor and play with and spend time with them. When he gets into kindergarten, it may not be his favorite thing, but he'll still remember doing that and enjoying it. And then we all have fun with them too. So it's definitely okay to teach them the stuff that you enjoyed as kids also. And everything comes around in cycles anyway. So they'll be doing a lot of the same things with their children when you're grandparents. So if anybody has questions, I'll hang on for a minute. You're all so quiet.
Well, you know, it's almost 8 o'clock. So.
It's 8 o'clock, middle of the week. I do
Hi, I have
appreciate
a question.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I kind of missed the intro, so I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you have any suggestions to get like a 3-year-old excited to do like singing and dancing? Like he loves the pretend play and dinosaurs and all that, but just kind of like the music and stuff he's not really into sometimes.
Okay. Well, for our boys especially, is he a boy?
Yeah.
I should always ask that. I think you said he.
Yeah.
So they're not always into that. I have had so many kids in playgroup that at that age wouldn't do it or practice it quite as much. One thing I can say is I would make it where try to do it as routine as possible. Like, as you know, during the day, make it a part of the routine. If you can
Okay.
settle in, like doing it before lunch, or I never say before bedtime because we never want to wind them up too much before bed. But some kids are okay with it. But you know, I do a lot of the nursery rhyme type songs because our boy kiddos really get into like music first when they start doing a lot of songs that have movement to them. So think about singing like a head, shoulders, knees, and toes, the itsy bitsy spider, stuff like that. Even at 3, he's going to enjoy it. And what they typically do is after you do it, you know, it might take a few days. It won't happen overnight, but they'll start imitating the movements that you're doing. And that's typically how they learn songs and singing. And then usually that translates into they want to start dancing, they want to start jumping around. So as much as you can convince the motor skills to work, he should start to show a little bit more enthusiasm for it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, he loves to, you know, run and play, but it's just sometimes the songs come on and we're like, oh, you know, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And
Yeah,
it's just like, no.
And do some, you know, when the song comes on, it's okay to do some of that running, jumping, skipping, playing, and just hop around and run around to the song. You know, do it with him. And then when you start doing other things like different types of dancing and stuff like that, he'll start to follow along. And having things like scarves or like a light t-shirt he can swing around while the music's on, that helps too. Usually our boys just want some kind of extra motor function to go along with it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Juliana, did you have a question?
I didn't have a question as much as I wanted to share something. Sorry, my little one is trying to run around over here without
Sorry.
clothes on, so I had to take away my video. But I just
That made my day. That's
you might want to let someone else go.
I love it.
Those are the sounds that I miss too.
It's like
when-
what makes me smile right
Yeah.
there.
Those are the sounds you miss from working at home all the time. Oh, she's got a whole crew there.
The gang's all here.
Hi. Hi, gang.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to say along the lines of, doing things that they like, especially when it comes to something that kids are really into. And this is all of our kids, because my husband has 2 kids from previous marriage too. So we have a 11-year-old, a 7-year-old. We have the 4.5-year-old at home, the 1.5-year-old, and then the newborn.
Wow.
And it seems like, something that they're really into, almost not obsessive, but you know how kids can get, especially with like video games. It's like anything else. The more that you kind of don't understand it and you don't want to do it with them, the more it drives them to do it. So I have found that it's definitely better to do things with them, and it just kind of takes their mind off of that so much as playing with you or playing with somebody else while they're doing it.
For sure.
Sorry for rambling.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you so much. That was really fantastic. And I think a good reminder of a lot of things that we all kind of know, but kind of get away from us sometimes.
Yep. And that's a lot of what, spending time with kids and being a parent is, I've only got one, and he's 15, but I've needed gentle reminders. And I always tell my friends, they're like, well, don't you just know how to do it all? I'm like, no, when it's your own kid, throw it out the window. It doesn't work. So just talking and being able to spend time with parents and providers and anybody who spends time with kids is so great for me too. So I appreciate you having me, and I thank you so much. And anytime, Marnie, you need me, I will pop back on. And
I love it. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back. We try to do 2 sessions a month with parent educators, so
right.
it's
Well,
cover all the bases.
if you enjoyed what I had to say, add me to your list anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kevin.
All right.
For anybody who wants to stick around, we're just going to quickly do a couple updates from the Parent Coalition, and then we'll do our drawing. If I can figure out where I put it, let me share my screen here. So I know some of you have been with us before, but some of you are new. I'm just going to quickly, the Eaton Parent Coalition is a group of parents that, hold on, let me make this bigger. I'm confusing myself. Sorry, that was a little dizzying. We're a group of parents in Eaton County that basically just get together and are interested in early childhood, are interested in learning more about parenting, about how to keep our families healthy, and how to help every parent, every family in the county, have a successful start to their children's lives. So we do a lot of different things as the Parent Coalition. I am really quickly going to go through these. I am not going to keep you guys here for very long. We do a couple things that we call parent-led strategies, which are things that the coalition itself kind of decides that are things that they think are important work to do in the county. We have a welcome baby bag program. Some of you may have gotten our bags. Some of you may have not. And if you need one, yay! If you need one, definitely let us know. So those bags are just full of all kinds of goodies that help support new parents with a really strong focus on just doing some education on health and safety, social and emotional, and just having a strong start to having a new little one in your home, whether you're a first-time parent or it's old hat. We aim to do 300 bags a year. By the end of this month, we'll have delivered 160 for our program year, which starts in October, not January. So we are well on our way to hitting our goal for the year. We also have a new program starting called What's Next, which is a program that focuses on social and emotional development in children. Families receive 2 kits a year that include literacy activities, games, self-care information for parents, and a whole bunch of just great stuff that focuses on that social and emotional development and just having healthy family relationships. I would love for everybody to sign up. I recognize some of your names from my list, so I know you're there. I will send out an email after this with Kevin's PowerPoint and some information about these programs if you haven't signed up yet. We are also doing parent cafes every month, which are just an opportunity for parents to get together and really focus on just growing their parenting. So it's kind of, I want to say like it's a support group, but we focus on the 5 protective factors that make healthy families. And it's a lot of fun. So I'll give you guys some information about that too. We have a new service coming called Bright by Text, which is a free texting app that delivers age-relevant content to parents that handful of times a week. So depending on how old your kiddos are, you get just tips about that age group, everything from social and emotional to cognitive, to physical, to all things parenting. It also includes local information, so you can get texts about play groups that are coming up, different parenting groups, preschool, all kinds of good stuff. And lastly, we'll be hosting a book study too for those of you with a little bit older kids. It'll be for families with children 5 to 8, and that's tentatively scheduled to be starting in March. Now that I've got all your email addresses, I'll be sending you occasional emails with invitations to do stuff like this. So thanks for bearing with me through that. All right, now we're going to do our drawing, but I got to stop sharing for a minute and then go to a different screen. Oh, Zoom. Is this what I want? All right, so we do a $25 gift card drawing at the end of our Parent Coalition meetings. So I think I've got everybody's names in there. Is everybody still with me? Oh, I think did we lose Lindsay? Or is she still here? Zoom. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go for it here. Maybe. All right, spin. Lane, you won. All right, awesome. So I will send you an email and give you your options for your gift card. And we're gonna stop sharing that, and we're gonna go back here one more time. I'm sorry that I'm making you guys all dizzy. Oh, I don't want that. I'm making you dizzy. That's it. That's the end. You guys, we have another speaker next week, which you're welcome to join us for, but we are going to be recording all these meetings. So if there are times that you can't join, we're going to be hosting these on YouTube. So I'll send everybody the link. Like I said, we have 2 meetings a month. We have parent educators and different topics twice a month, all year long. So lots of awesome opportunities to just give yourself some more knowledge and empower you to be the best parent that you can be. Does anybody have any questions? No? Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you guys.
Thank you, though.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's tough in the evenings. Our second meeting of the month is on Thursdays, and we do it at 1:30, which is sometimes easier for folks if their kiddos still nap. Not always. So definitely look forward to seeing you guys in the future if you can make it.
Actually, love the evenings.
Oh, good. We
I
try
work all
to.
day and I do not get a lunch break, so it's
Oh,
honestly
yeah. That's why we try to do both, because it's different for everybody what works.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thanks so much. You guys have a good evening, and thanks for coming.